Brighten up those already bright mornings. Wheeler, Ollie, and Lecter. Mornings at the Cabin.
Mornings at the Cabin, indeed. It is Thursday morning. You know what that means. Today's show is brought to you by Dragon Toner. That's right. And all the money they've been giving away to local charities and organizations over the past, has it been 10 months already?
At least, well, no, it's started this year.
Yeah. Okay, started this year. Okay, so it only feels like 10 months.
It feels like 10 years.
It feels like 10 years since we started this. But this month's recipient, YK Marine Rescue, and we will have a guest in a little later on, around 8:30. Morgan Fain will come in and talk about just what that means to them. So big ups to Dragon Toner once again. Mornings at the Cabin, also brought to you by A&W this morning. Not really, but we do Teen Burger Thursdays here, and dibs out. My finger is on my nose.
Yeah, you've still got a penalty.
I'm paying for it. I'll pay for it.
But you must also fetch it.
I'm not fetching it. No.
The penalty also includes the
I
fetching.
have a whole thing to do here.
Of course he can fetch. There's like 20 minutes in between breaks.
I can't fetch.
Yes, you can.
My knees, my ankle.
Those songs don't play themselves, Ollie.
That's right.
They literally do. They literally do.
I'm
looking at the software that plays the songs.
How dare you?
We've gone back to the vinyl system
Half the time, he complains that the software chose the wrong songs.
And that's why he's got to stay here and
That's
man
right.
the show.
That's right.
Stay here and watch the wrong songs play out while complaining.
Yeah. If I had to sit here and watch Neil Diamond play one more time, and we're playing Sweet Caroline later on, which is irresponsible at best.
Oh, we are as well.
Hands touching hands, reaching out.
Yeah,
stay away from
we've been over that.
You stay away from me. We have been over that. Over that 2-meter limit.
Sweet bubble with Caroline.
Sweet bubble line.
Sweet bubble line. Yeah.
Let's get the show going.
Mornings at the Cabin, the podcast.
Mornings at the Cabin, Little Nirvana, Come As You Are, Huey and Lewis in the news, and Gwyneth Paltrow cruising before that. Shannon Moore has sent us a message saying, if we play that again, she will quit. That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair enough. Today's show brought to you by Dragon Toner, and they're celebrating 10 years by supporting Yellowknife community groups. This month, Dragon Toner is supporting Yellowknife Marine Rescue, and we'll have Morgan Fain in a little bit later on to talk about that. Big news out of the sports world. Obviously, a lot going on in the world right now. But big news out of the sports world during the NBA playoffs in response to the recent shooting in Wisconsin of Jacob Blake by police. There was postponements of the games yesterday. Mm-hmm. And then the LA Clippers and the LA Lakers have decided to boycott the rest of the playoffs. Not just these games to make a statement, but to make the biggest statement, and that is to sit out the rest of the playoffs. Now, they're in the middle of 2 series right now. I'm not sure what happens now.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if anyone knows what happens now. I think all you could really do is kind of wait and see if things change. Postpone for now.
Yep.
I mean, there's no tight timeline to finish the NBA
There really
playoffs.
isn't. I mean, yeah, exactly, right? I mean, you
yeah.
can finish it pretty much any time because they were already prepared for a pandemic-induced delay.
Right.
So, I mean, this is obviously a bit different.
Yeah.
So if you postpone these games or you walk out of the playoffs, I mean, the NBA is at a bit of a crossroads right now. Do you support the players? They've shown support for the players, but at this point, like the players walking out are you're going against your contracts, you're going against your agreements with the league.
Right.
Obviously, it's a very powerful statement to make. Mm-hmm. But where do you go from here? Do you cancel the rest of the playoffs? Because what remains to be seen is what the rest of the teams are going to do. Like Oklahoma, Houston, Milwaukee, Orlando all postponed their games, all boycotted their games yesterday, but have not made announcements as to whether or not they're going to return for the rest of the playoffs.
Right.
All eyes in Canada for basketball fans on Toronto, Boston tonight, and whether or not they're going to postpone or walk out of the playoffs as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very interesting situation.
I would be shocked if they didn't at least postpone the game tonight.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, we'll see what happens there. I'm sure there's a lot of frantic phone calls being made around league offices right now and around teams and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, it's as we've been saying for the last 5 months or so, and we're circling around sports and everything else. These are unprecedented times.
Indeed.
And, I really don't know what you do. I mean, but, either way, agree or disagree, like it or dislike it, the response from LeBron and the other players that have decided to walk out and boycott the rest of the season, it's a powerful statement.
Absolutely. And regardless of how you feel about how millionaires react to these things, I mean, they are still human beings, and this is their way to make a statement. There's not really much of another way. I mean, they can stand up on the pulpit and preach and do all these other things, and people will just say, shut up and dribble.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, cool, we're not going to dribble.
Yeah.
We're just going to walk away. This is the most powerful statement we can make.
Pretty much.
I'm interested to see what Milwaukee does, because obviously this is where the shooting took place, so this is the epicenter of this latest police shooting that has grabbed international attention. They've postponed their game. They boycotted their yesterday's game. It'd be interesting to see if they completely walk out.
Yeah.
Anything? I mean, Ollie, have you ever seen anything like this?
Well, it's happening in other sports. So MLS walked out as well.
Yes, that's right. And WNBA as well.
WNBA. So it's not just the NBA.
No,
I mean,
not.
You said at the start, it'd be interesting to see, do they support the players? I mean, I don't think they have a choice.
Right.
Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
The players
What are you going to
hold
find them?
every single card in what they choose to do.
And
absolutely.
And as they should, really, in any of these situations, in any situation when it comes to the game of basketball, the players should hold the ultimate card, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've been saying that in the NBA specifically for years. Like the players, they completely run the narrative of
Pretty
that
much,
league as it is right now. And, and like you say, fair enough. They're the ones who are used to put butts in the seats, now putting butts in front of screens.
In front of screens, exactly.
But in this type of situation, especially, when there was a lot of unknowns with the whole bubble hub and trying to finish off the season with COVID going on, the players were the ones taking on 100% of the risk.
Yes.
And, that's on top of already the inherent risk of sports, right? There's always a risk of injury, but now you're taking on that additional risk of becoming sick. And so I mean, and obviously, other leagues are doing their thing too, but we talk first and foremost about the NBA because I mean LeBron James he's arguably the biggest name in professional sports, certainly in North America.
Yes.
He has been a leading voice since the reignited Black Lives Matter movement after the George Floyd murder. LeBron has not been shy about putting his feelings out there, and when LeBron moves, things tend to react.
That's right.
He sets an entire narrative all on his own based on what he decides he wants to do. He's a very, whether people like him as a basketball player, whether you like him as a person, he is such an incredibly influential person in the world of pro sports right now. And I think right now we're seeing that as evident as you're ever going to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, Ollie, it is happening in other sports, WNBA and MLS. Where it's not happening and where we're going to see some interesting reactions and maybe some blowback is the NHL. NHL has not really made a statement. They haven't really kind of weighed in on this at all.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, there's no professional or there's no NHL team in Wisconsin, right? So I mean, there's obviously American teams playing all in and around that area.
Yeah.
Obviously they're only playing in Edmonton, and Toronto right now, but. It'll be interesting to see if they say or do anything. I mean, NHL of all the leagues we've mentioned have obviously the least amount of black players. I think there's a dozen in the entire league, right?
I mean, I off the top of my head, I'm not sure.
I think
so. Ironically, timing wise, the most recent thing we've heard of the NHL. As far as the political spectrum goes, is that Logan Couture apparently was sucker punched on the street for talking about possibly, supporting the Republican Party and talking about Donald Trump favorably. And, apparently he got sucker punched for it. Well, so it's like, okay, that's different than what the rest of pro sports is talking about.
He does have a bit of a rat face. A smackable face.
It's hockey, right?
That's right. You're used to getting punched. It's part of the game.
That's right. Usually with a glove on, though. Come on.
Yeah. So I mean, this is the biggest this is the biggest story in the world of sports right now. Obviously, it takes It's not top of the list for stories worldwide, but I mean, it's a pretty big story this morning. So we should have. I'm glad we touched on it. I mean, there's not much. We'll see what happens today. The decision to walk out of on the playoffs was made like around dinner time last night.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens for the rest of the day. Obviously, there's games scheduled today, and we'll see what happens.
The Mornings at the Cabin podcast.
Wheeler and Lecter with you on your Thursday morning. It's Teen Burgers in about 19 minutes.
Oh.
I'm paying, not going. The NWT is introducing new security measures to combat fraudulent IDs. Well, this is a huge departure. So they're introducing new IDs, new driver's license, new identification cards, which will feature facial recognition technology. Ooh. Well, that's what it will be used to identify the IDs, I should say.
Right.
But upgrade and new security features to help protect the privacy of residents, crack down on these fraudulent IDs. Yeah, that's pretty cool, actually. So it's just a new design. They've kind of redesigned them a couple times in the last little while. But the reason I want to talk about this is because we do have my learner's permit up here on the board.
We do.
And it is literally a piece of paper with my photo on it that's been laminated.
That lamination, you can't.
It's tight.
You can't tear that.
Oh, you can't tear it. But what you can do is take a scalpel and just kind of slice down the side, remove the paper, change everything on it, and put it back.
I suddenly
that was back in the day.
see now why they need these new identification cards.
Well, this one was issued in 1997.
Yeah.
Back before computers were invented and the internet was not. So you couldn't really delve into people's personal records that easily.
Who would want to?
Right. I mean, when I was 15, I didn't have much going on.
No.
Still don't. This was at 15. I'm not sure there was much you could steal from me. I may have had a couple $100s in my bank account. That was about it.
Yeah.
There wasn't much interesting going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So November will be the first time that GNWT will use facial recognition, which can decipher minor details on photos to guard against fraudulent IDs. Software will compile and cross-reference ID photos from across Canada to ensure no one has more than one driver's license, driving record, or general identification card. A massive departure from just having all kinds of licenses, I guess.
I suppose, yeah.
I'm gonna put this out there. My license still has my address from where I lived in 2017. Ooh.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I got that one, and I paid for the 5-year ID, and we've moved twice since then? Twice. 3 times since then. I am not changing my license and getting charged however much it is to do it every time I move. That's stupid.
You know what? You could just save yourself trouble on this by just saying that you live at 21 Anywhere Street.
21 Anywhere Street. Just like
It seemed to work for Samantha and
Samuel
James
Sample. 21 Anywhere Street. But I feel like that's an actual real postal code. X1A 2L9.
That seems legit.
That seems legit.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh wow! Just looking down their IDs. It's interesting how they do these
fake
sample IDs.
Yeah.
For stock photos' sake.
Yep.
Is it always SJS initials?
I guess.
Is the color of their eyes always bro?
Bro. Well, I mean, it's short for brown.
Oh, it's brown.
Yeah. Her hair is bro.
Yeah.
And his is BLK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they always born? They were born the exact same day.
What?
Wait,
October 1st?
They haven't even been born yet.
October 1st. No, they have October 1st.
2020.
It says August 1995. He says October 1st.
That's the date of issue. Right. Yeah.
So that's the thing, though. So this guy, Samuel James Sample, nice looking guy.
Yeah.
Got it issued. Date of expiry is 2025. So 5 years. If he moves, though, he has to go get a new ID, which is garbage. Because back in the day, even when you had these plastic IDs but that weren't laminated, they were kind of a little bit more secure. You could go in and just get a little piece of paper and tape it over your address with a change of address. You could.
So secure.
Well, I mean, they don't need to it's the ID part. That's the part they don't want to steal. It's not the address. Who cares?
Yeah.
Shouldn't even have your address on it.
Well, if you want to change your ID, just put a little strip of tape over the eyes.
There you go.
Draw some new eyes on there.
Those are my real eyes. They're blue. So I mean, cool. More technology to combat against ID theft. Here's the thing, though. We already give away our entire identification on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever. So
absolutely.
having a nice little extra bit of security over driver's license, I guess that's cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is some dude in China who has all my information. Probably.
I would also love if it, based on, again, these example ID cards, Samuel James sample.
Yeah.
If it actually said on the right side whether you're a physical specimen or not.
Yeah.
Like I would love for people to just, they want to know like what's Lecter got going on under that shirt
what kind
there?
of specimen is
there a
this guy?
six-pack under there? I don't know. Just look at his license. Specimen.
Well, I mean, for you there might be.
No.
They're kind of they're lovely. I mean, on Samuel's there's a picture of a fox and some what is that, fireweed there? But I don't understand whether it has to be like the little loop of his name and his birthday
with the fish.
With the fish, it's like a little cartoon. It's very strange. It's a grayling that's on the ID, right? It's just all there. It's just looking more and more like our money. Soon enough, it'll just have like a picture of the Queen on it. And it's like, this isn't you.
Hey,
look to the left.
She can jump onto my license anytime.
Okay. All right. All right, Lecter. I didn't think we were airing our personal likes and wants here.
I like the Queen.
The Queen. You want the Queen to jump?
Nice say.
All right, fair enough. I don't think she can jump anymore.
Big fan of... No, she probably can't.
Big fan of the Queen.
Big fan of Liz.
Big fan of Liz. I mean, if I ever met her, that's probably what I'd say.
Big fan, Liz.
Liz, you're looking dynamite.
The Mornings at the Cabin podcast was recorded before a sort of live, thankfully not in the studio, audience.
Another special episode of Without Knowing Precisely What's Going On with Ollie Williams. What's so special about this episode? We pretty much know what's going on.
Mostly. Oh, you'd be surprised.
That's absolutely right. But I mean, really, the thrust of this show is that, or this segment is that we know almost everything that's going on. We just need Ollie to fine tune it.
We're circling.
Yeah,
Ollie,
we're circling.
You bring us in for a land.
Yeah, and sometimes we make a lot of assumptions.
Well,
for example, I think the Legislative Assembly burnt to the ground yesterday.
Oh, my God.
This is what I heard.
Ollie, is this true?
Only figuratively.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got that literal figure, because everybody just says literally about everything now. I have no idea what figuratively
they literally
means
do.
or literally means.
Yeah. Technically, it's...
Technically, don't stop throwing technically around. We're still trying to figure out figuratively.
Well, metaphorically speaking.
If
we were...
Metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
We all wear masks. And the ledge burnt to the ground. Ollie, without knowing precisely what's going on, yesterday the vote happened, the thing we've all been waiting for, and 16-1, Nokleby was knocked out of cabinet. What else is going on?
Well, now you got to pick someone to go in.
Yes, that's right.
And there are two candidates, for what we can tell.
Right, because they have to be from Yellowknife.
They've got to be from Yellowknife. So we thought that might change, but yesterday afternoon they put out, all the MLAs put out a news release saying, nope, it's not going to change. There's been this convention for years and years and years that you have two ministers from the north of the NWT, you have two from Yellowknife, you have two from the south of the NWT, plus the premier, wherever they're from, they don't count for that.
That's right.
So you're at this point where if you lose a Yellowknife minister, which is, of course, Katrina Nokleby is the Great Slave MLA, so she's from Yellowknife. If you lose a Yellowknife minister, then you need to put in a regular MLA from Yellowknife to replace them.
Now, you said there's only two choices, but there are three other MLAs.
There are four Yellowknife
MLAs. I knew that.
Just not precisely.
So Ryland Johnson
has said he doesn't want it.
Caitlin Cleveland has just said she doesn't want it.
This morning?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no Rijo.
Which
no K Cleve.
Thank you.
we gotta roll with nicknames.
Which leaves...
Well, now that Cat knocks out.
That's right.
Which leaves Dewgree and KO.
KO. I like KO. The first one you said, maybe not.
Collide.
Yeah. Dewgree. There we go.
Yeah.
Julie G.
Julie G. Okay, sure. We'll go. That's safer. Yeah, we'll go with that.
That is much safer.
So Julie Green or Kevin O'Reilly, they haven't commented either way. Neither of them have said, yeah, I want the job. Neither of them have said, I don't want the job.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what happens if all four Yellowknife regular MLAs are like, yeah, actually kind of happy, Peter. Did you see what happened to the last minister?
Yeah,
I think I'm going to be good over here, thanks.
Yeah, no one's clamoring for the spot, I don't think. It's a hard job.
I would love a public roasting by all of my colleagues broadcast live. Yeah, that would be great.
Would love it.
It looked fun.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like everybody was having a pretty good time.
So who knows? I mean, if all four of them turn around and say, I don't want to be the next minister, then I don't know what we do. I imagine you open it up to anybody else, at which point Jackson Lafferty's going to be at the head of the line. Because I'm pretty sure heuld quite like to be a minister again.
Absolutely,
we'll
and it seems to be kind of falling that way. I mean, O'Reilly, KO, and
Julie G.
And Julie G. I mean, industry and infrastructure ministers, but
so this is important. This is important.
Green leanings.
You don't have to do those jobs.
Okay.
So whoever gets put in as a minister,
Yeah.
then it's up to the premier to decide who gets
Okay,
which.
so she can shuffle. Okay.
So
Yeah.
she could look at that, and I think you're absolutely right. There are probably very few premiers in the world who would say on Julie Green or Kevin O'Reilly arriving in cabinet,
Yeah.
here's the infrastructure minister.
Yeah, this piece should be in charge of industry. Absolutely.
Each of them have opposed quite bitterly at times big infrastructure projects and the territory's reliance on those for its future plans.
Yeah.
Things like the Tulsen hydro expansion, moving the Tulsen hydro system's power up to the North Slave and the mines. Julie and Kevin have expressed a lot of reservations about that. The highway going through the mining stretch sort of up toward Nunavut. Each of them has said, look, this is a waste of money. We could be doing better things with this. The Mackenzie Valley Highway, they've been fiercely critical of how some of that has rolled out. So those are the three big infrastructure projects that the NWT government has slap bang in the middle of its mandate to say we're going to deliver on these over the next few years. So that puts either of them, if they go into cabinet today, in a really awkward position because they've opposed a lot of that and questioned why it's necessary.
Yeah.
And it's not for me right now to get into who is right in that, because there are many different opinions you could hold. But it does, you could imagine some pretty awkward cabinet meetings if you had either of those people in positions of responsibility for projects they clearly don't believe in.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what is more likely to happen is that, I mean, they've just, like, Caroline Cochrane has given infrastructure to R.J. Simpson and industry, tourism, and investment to Shane Thompson right now.
Yep.
So since last week when Katrina Nokleby lost those portfolios.
RJ's just like, yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, whatever.
Why not? Just
pile
add
on
things to my pile.
So RJ was already the education minister. Now he's got infrastructure. Shane Thompson already had ENR and lands.
Yeah.
And now has ITI as well.
Lord.
Which is a lot. So something's clearly going to go off his plate.
Yeah.
Right? And I wonder if Julie Green or Kevin O'Reilly comes in,
do ENR.
does one of those
Lands.
get
Yeah,
ENR, possibly even lands as well?
Yeah.
And you say, right now, Shane is your ITI minister.
Yeah.
Right? So look for something like that to happen instead, where you're going to be able, at least then, to give someone like Kevin O'Reilly, who has spent so much time actively advocating for environmental concerns in the legislature. As environment minister,
absolutely,
clearly is going to have some strength. Is also going to have to temper some of that,
of course,
because you're then going to be on cabinet and you can't be quite as swashbuckling in attacking other departments for their perceived failings.
Oh, that'd be fun to see.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be certainly interesting because certainly there's going to have to be an element of changing of tune, right? Because now you're moving from being such a fierce critic of a lot of how this government operates, and forever Kevin O'Reilly and Julie Green have questioned how long it takes to get responses on things, why cabinet cannot share more information. Well, now one of them, presumably later this morning, is going to be on the other side of that fence and is going to be the one having to answer to. Well, you can imagine Katrina Nokleby reveling in standing up on the other side of being, well, I haven't had a response in weeks, Kevin.
Yeah.
Because that's what she was facing for the first 9 months. So she was fiercely criticized yesterday for taking incredibly long to respond. So whoever the new minister is, tell you right now who the first person is going to be tapping their watch waiting for responses. It's going to be the Great Slave MLA. So it'll be very interesting to see. So it starts at 9 o'clock, only about 50 minutes time until the proceedings get underway. The candidates get 10 minutes to speak to all the MLAs. It's going to be broadcast live. And then there can be questions. Like, each MLA is allowed to ask one question to each of the candidates. And then there's a secret ballot. Now, at this rate, there's only two people who might even be candidates. Both of them may not go up against each other. Yeah. This could actually be over very quickly if only one person stands up and says, I'd like to be the minister. Well, you're our only choice, so great. In you go.
Quickly, but not new record quickly.
Yeah, not 4 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, probably not new record quickly.
Okay.
Now, what might be interesting is if nobody stands up. So if Julie Green and Kevin O'Reilly also both say, no, I don't want to be the minister, then I don't know what happens, and we would have to find out.
Okay.
Is there a possibility of people who are not in the cabinet right now being shuffled into the cabinet if no MLA stands up and says they want the job?
Well, you would have to have someone want it. You can't be voted in if you weren't a candidate.
Yeah.
So you have to agree
they,
to be a candidate.
If
You
they
can't
don't,
be
do they
press
go-
ganged into it.
No, of course.
Dragged, kicking and
that's
screaming
right,
over
that's
in the cabinet.
You. No, I don't want it. You. But I mean, they would move outside of Yellowknife, presumably.
Well, I guess they would have to, but
Yeah.
I don't know the procedure exists
Yeah.
for that. So I think we'd be flying by the seats of our pants if we got to that point.
Well, that doesn't seem like something this
Alternatively,
government would do.
You could just run with a cabinet of 6 instead of 7.
That's a lot of work for
but
people.
it's a lot of work. Like as we just said, Shane Thompson's trying to do ENR, ITI, and land. Each of those is a pretty big ticket item.
It's not going to speed up timelines as far as response time.
Probably not gonna. Yeah, you'd be. If that certainly would be an indictment of the previous minister. If Shane with 3 departments is suddenly able to just like dash off responses in 20 minutes,
Just one word answers: yes, no.
just rolls one of those dice you can get that has the different responses on it.
No.
Not today.
No.
Roll again. Maybe in a week.
And he's doing TikToks and Instagram posts. Man, he's all over the place. I did have a question, and I'm sure this has been said before, and the information is out there. For each portfolio, is there more money? Like, do you earn more money for each portfolio?
Yeah, you earn about. Well, you don't earn money per portfolio.
Okay.
You earn money as a minister or not. So it's not like Shane Thompson is now pulling 500 Gs a year.
I was just going to say.
Because he's got like
I'm not
3
going to give up
departments.
lands.
Right.
Yeah.
That's another $100,000, baby.
No, you get about 50-odd grand extra a year.
Yeah.
To be a minister.
For being a
minister. But that's it. So
Yeah.
like even if you're just the minister with responsibility for Ravens,
Yeah.
like you're still a minister, so you're pulling in the money.
Okay.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Which, let's face it, is probably
so
what
much
Katrina
fun.
Nokleby would have been left with if they'd voted her to keep her in yesterday. And Premier would have looked at her and been like, well, I'm still not giving you back any of your portfolios. We're just going to make one up.
Minister of Ravens would be awesome.
Oh,
I'm the murder
I don't know.
minister.
You know
They are critical birds. They are going to have a lot. You're going to get so much correspondence.
Oh, my God.
You know
From
what
your
it's needed?
constituents?
The Just Ravens Facebook group is just chaos. There's anarchy in there these days. So, yeah, I think that's something to be considered. You had the newsroom. We had like 3 big bags of popcorn. You guys were all settled in for yesterday. Just your personal thoughts on, because obviously a lot of the criticism was that this was a pretty big thing that was happening without a lot of transparency. And that was the word we kept hearing. This was a government that promised a renewed effort for transparency, and they didn't seem to be doing that. They were giving very short, very not a lot of color as to why they were making the decisions they were making. What did you think about the elaborated statements we heard?
They did elaborate, and significantly so. The Premier spoke for about 10 or 15 minutes and did set out in considerably more detail, still without going into specific events or naming specific other people, went into much more detail about what the issues were. So things like, to paraphrase what she used the phrase continual tantrums,
right,
and walking out of meetings, inability to manage her office, so the delays to responses to people, saying degrading things about civil servants, and trying to have civil servants disciplined based on unsubstantiated rumor alone, were just some of the things that Premier Caroline Cochrane outlined. Now, Katrina Nokleby, I should say, disputes a lot of that, and says that she feels as though she's been kind of tried and convicted without any real fair due process.
Right.
She called it a toxic culture of secrecy yesterday in terms of what she was having to deal with. But it was interesting to see a lot of people lined up to share similar concerns. Caroline Wozniak, the finance minister and the justice minister, who probably, her stock is probably higher than any other MLA right now, I would say. I think a lot of people, having listened to Caroline Wozniak during the pandemic and having seen the way she handles things like Q&A sessions, she, generally speaking, is one of the better people at vocalizing things and dealing with questions on the fly.
Right.
Spoke very eloquently about the problems that she'd had. She described it as emotionally exhausting trying to work with Katrina Nokleby because she said there were these bizarre battles over who was going to get to announce what and who got to speak about what that Caroline Wozniak said she and her staff just couldn't live with because it was making their job so difficult. And it's interesting to hear her say that because, it's easy for regular MLAs to stand up and say, this minister's not doing it right. It's very rare to hear a cabinet minister stand up, particularly one with the standing of the finance minister, stand up and say, I can't do my job because of the way that this person is acting.
And that's the exactly the kind of infighting and kind of nonsense that people grow exhausted of themselves. The voters do, because like from their end, they're like, who cares who gets to announce it? Like, you're just trying to up your profile at that point.
Yeah, just get the job done.
Just get it done.
Is all people want. Yeah. And I think we did get a lot more detail yesterday. I think we certainly got enough detail to get a much better sense of what was going on. But my question would still be, if the Premier felt comfortable yesterday sharing what she shared, she spoke for 10 or 15 minutes. Like I said, she still didn't share anything specific in terms of events or anything, but she gave a much more thorough accounting. Why couldn't we have had that last week and saved 7 days of more rumor, more innuendo, more gossip, and trying to figure out what was actually going on?
Right.
Why couldn't that 10 minutes have just been the first thing that the Premier said rather than the last thing?
Well, that would have been more overtime for the people to do the research and prepare answers.
Well, I mean, I guess in theory, like, it's, you're not trying to like crucify someone, right? Like, you're trying to take care of what seems to you to be an issue and seems to other ministers to be an issue. Everyone, and yesterday was no exception. Everyone, for the most part, seemed pretty much on the same page. Yeah. But and I think it was Kevin O'Reilly who pointed out, like, there's not really any points, and doesn't serve the greater good to go into any more detail. And I agree with them there. Like, it is pretty much spelled out what the issues were. And maybe it's just a case of someone who is going into this for the first time, and being very frustrated by the process. And without, I've never been involved in politics myself, but I can imagine there are a lot of things that you encounter as your first time going into it that just don't really play well with just the way you want to get things done, the way things should be. It's the way things are as opposed to the way things should be type of situation. And I kind of get the sense that that's a little bit where this friction and where the problems arose from.
So what you're saying is trust no one.
Trust no one.
I mean, but one of the complaints is that she made disparaging comments to people about other people. Obviously, those people talked, and that becomes an issue.
Right.
Toxic culture of secrecy is a new T-shirt from Cabin Radio. My legislative assembly is a toxic culture of secrecy. What's yours? Ollie, thank you for fine-tuning our perspective.
Always
on
a
what's
pleasure.
going on.
Never a chore.
Absolutely. More to follow, I'm sure, as we know, at 9 o'clock. That's when it's going live.
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock going live. Get your popcorn ready and watch the government work.
The Mornings at the Cabin podcast.
Brought to you by Dragon Toner Law, and in support, in celebrating 10 years of doing business. They are supporting Yellowknife community groups, and we've been featuring them for the past few months. And this month, they are supporting Yellowknife Marine Rescue, and we've got Morgan Fain here to talk a little bit about the donation and Yellowknife Marine Rescue. Morgan, welcome, man.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about Yellowknife Marine Rescue and just what this donation means to you guys.
Thanks. Yeah, the Yellowknife Marine Rescue Society we're a nonprofit organization in the Northwest Territories, and we exist exclusively to support the Yellowknife Coast Guard Auxiliary unit. Yep. So that's a couple of vessels that we operate on the north side of Great Slave Lake is our mandate. From time to time, we might go to one of the smaller lakes when asked, but we help folks who are in distress or mechanical trouble or what have you, and do search and rescue operations on the lake. And Dragon Toners made a donation to support us acquiring some equipment.
Awesome. And do you have that money earmarked for some equipment already?
Yeah, absolutely. So we approached them for help with a thermal imaging system. So right now we have a night vision monocular, which is quite cool. Its efficacy is not as great as we would like when it comes to looking for folks who are in the water, perhaps, or even really close to the shoreline, because night vision is as good as what you can see through it.
Yes. Right.
With the thermal imaging, though, what we hope is for people who are perhaps on the shoreline but through tree cover, or for people who are in the water with or without a PFD, we hope with.
Yep.
But even so, it's a big lake, and it's with a little bit of chop, and you think about what 3-foot waves look like. That's going to encompass somebody's upper body or whatever there. So the thermal imaging, we hope, will give us a little bit more of an opportunity to find folks who need rescuing.
Absolutely. Anything to make the job a little bit easier for you guys.
Indeed.
Absolutely. So, I mean, that's a great way to obviously spend that money. It's a great thing that Dragon Toner is doing, giving money to these local nonprofit organizations. What's the season been like? We've had a bit of a topsy-turvy season weather-wise. A lot of rain, a lot of winds. I mean, How's the season been for you guys this summer?
Yeah, absolutely. So our year has been as it has been.
Yeah.
On average, we're sort of on track for what we usually do, which is about a dozen plus or minus taskings.
Okay.
And when we say tasking here, it's effectively the RCMP that mandate search and rescue on the lake and actually throughout the territory generally. And so they'll approach us and say, hey, we need a boat to go out. And our all-volunteer organization, a couple of folks we have an app, in fact. It used to be a pager. In fact, until quite recently, it was a pager.
Pager?
Yeah. But we'll respond. We'll see who's around. Our coxswains have a certain certification, and they're the folks who need to be operating the vessel and in control of it. All of us have sort of a baseline qualification. We're all able to use marine radios and have a personal vessel operator certificate and things like this. But anyway, muster up, get a briefing, figure out what's going on, and head out on the water and do what needs to be done.
That's what I was going to ask. An all-volunteer organization. What's your background? Where do you come into this?
So I had been on a sailboat from time to time in the Pacific Ocean, and then came on up and wanted to meet some folks. And it's a great training program. Yeah, for sure. So from start to finish, people who are interested and want to volunteer and have the time. Usually we do our sort of recruitment pitch for people who come see us at our booth at the trade show, which due to world events was not a thing that happened this year.
How can they get in touch other than that then? So you're absolutely right. We didn't have the trade show. You don't have your usual avenues to get people to volunteer or get to information. How can they get in touch now?
Can they still page you?
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, please do. I think the batteries last quite a while on those.
They do. Yeah, that thing's going to be working for another 100 years.
That's right. iPhone's got 18 hours, but these are weeks long. So folks who are interested, who are listening, who might think that they want to volunteer with or without particularly any marine experience whatsoever, really, can go ahead and just Google Yellowknife Coast Guard Auxiliary, and we have a website with a just really antiquated HTML setup and an email that you can
It's
get in
a
touch
GeoCities account.
Oh,
it's just a personal blog,
no,
really.
GeoCities would be miles ahead.
Oh no!
Yeah. We've been operating since 1982, and we were early on the World Wide Web and early to not update.
It's like a blue background with like magenta print on it. I mean, that $1,000 is good for thermal imaging, but maybe an uptick on the website as well.
Yeah,
I guess so.
Give us an idea of what a potential volunteer could expect in terms of like the training and the process, because obviously, like at most volunteer gigs, you're expecting to maybe do a little bit of grunt work. This is obviously a pretty important, pretty crucial service that you guys offer, and I think it's interesting that it is a volunteer run organization because it is potentially life and death situations. So give us an idea as to if someone was looking to volunteer, what that process would look like for them.
Yeah, it's a training session, like a formalized program that's been sort of approved by the folks at the headquarters. I mean, it's a national organization. There are a number of units. I don't have the number to hand, but anyway, operating on pretty much every major body of water, Lake Winnipeg, the Great Lakes, and of course all of the oceans.
Right.
We have a lot of new units that are getting up to speed now in the north, and there's some new money that's coming in to get vessels specifically for people. To sort of step back on a broad spectrum of what we're doing here, the folks who do it on like the Great Lakes, for instance, usually are fishers, or they're running a tugboat or whatever it is the case may be, and they from time to time will put on their Coast Guard hat. We're unique, or not unique, but we are one of the groups that has assets that are exclusively used for search and rescue.
Okay.
So that's what the vessel's for, and nothing else. So don't bring your fishing rod. But what you can expect if you volunteer is to take a training course that we usually start up in like February, March kind of a thing. And throughout one night a week for a couple of hours, you go through this program. You learn, you learn your stern and your bow and your starboard and port and all that. And also how to tie knots and navigation and search and rescue patterns, sort of like the algorithm that you run to how to drive your vessel around, knowing things about, where the water's going, where the wind's going. There's sort of people who have thought long and hard about the best way to look for things that may or may not be floating in a body of water.
Right.
So you learn that kind of a thing. You learn to think like a search and rescue technician, sort of you stop, assess the situation, and then proceed with the right thing to do. Try and keep an even keel, if you'll forgive the pun. And
I will not forgive that pun.
Okay, well, I'm going to say it regardless. And then once you've kind of got that level of skill, involves passing various tests, and as I say, a marine radio certificate, so that you speak on the Marine radio as a licensed person. Otherwise, you might be committing an offense. Also, don't swear. That's also contrary to the Transport Act.
That works well.
What if it's the name of the boat?
There we go.
There we go. Loopholes everywhere. Well, very cool, man. I mean, it's and it's an all volunteer organization. Like, so you're saying like anybody can kind of get involved with this?
Yeah, absolutely. So you do your little practical stuff on the water in the beginning of the season, and then from time to time you get a call out. And you might be person number 4 or person number 5 on that vessel. And you mostly for that first couple of tasks out there, you're standing and you're watching the people and doing what's been asked of you.
Right.
And that might be as simple as take a look off our stern here where we're towing a boat back to town and make sure that we don't lose that boat or things like this. Right.
Yeah,
and so that's something that anybody can do without too much in the way of experience. And then you just go from there. And then there are people in our organization who we're really happy to have who have had decades of experience with the unit and all kinds of situations, life and unfortunately sometimes death.
Yeah, of course. How is recruitment going? Like, where are you guys numbers wise? Are you looking to take on some more volunteers? I mean, I imagine you're always looking to take on volunteers, but I mean, how is recruitment going right now?
Yeah, we've got 45 active members of the unit right now. Yeah, to a maximum sort of 50. And I think from a logistical sense, we don't want too many more than that.
Right.
Well, we can't have more than that, but it's a good number to have anyway.
Yeah, it is.
We tend to run a program for new people that can be anywhere from 3 to maybe 8 people, depending on numbers. And, Yellowknife and the North being what it is in terms of people coming and going, we do need to replace folks who are leaving from time to time.
Of course. And I mean, and we all know if we have any familiarity with the lake at all, we know just how treacherous the big lake can be. Mm-hmm. I myself have been in many situations out in the lake where it's like, maybe we should turn back and go into Devil's Channel because there's 7-foot swell out there. So, I mean, if you have any interest in that at all, you can get in touch at an antiquated website. Is there an email that people can maybe reach you at or reach someone else at?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is, and we can talk about something else while I take the time to find out what that email address is to hand.
Well, in the meantime, big shout out to Dragon Toner again for the donation. They're continuing to do their 10-year anniversary celebration, which is very cool. They've made donations to several local groups already. YK Minor Fastball, I think, was the last one.
That's
Avens Center was before that.
And once again, let's put Cabin Radio on the list for possible monies. We are a nonprofit organization. Wink. Well, I mean,
we're for profit.
We're for profit. We just don't make much. Yeah. That's all it is. So I mean, this would be a very obviously, like you said, a good way to meet people, but also a good way to learn some great new skills and also get out. I mean, obviously, not the only part is to get out of the lake, but to get to know the lake as well. And get to know some survival skills that will be transferable to your own life if you go out camping and adventuring a lot out on the land.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's definitely a huge thing. A lot of our members have their own vessels and are learning a lot. And I'll tell you, there's nothing like going quite fast indeed on a really fast boat on a beautiful summer night.
Oh, yes.
And somebody else is paying for the gas.
Yes, that is nice. It's one of them perks. So, yeah, if someone wants to get in touch, you got an email.
I don't. Please Google Yellowknife Coast Guard Auxiliary.
Okay, so Dragon Toner, maybe toss in a couple $100 extra, get an email address and an updated website. Foursquare does great websites. You can whip them together pretty quick.
Or a volunteer.
That's right.
I got to tell you, I've been that volunteer for the past couple of years, and I'm getting there.
Okay, good.
I'm working on it.
Morgan's working on it. Awesome. Morgan, thanks for joining us this morning to talk about Yellowknife Marine Rescue and just what that donation from Dragon Toner is going to do. I mean, that's great. That's going to go towards saving lives possibly. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. We really appreciate it. And that's how we operate. We're all volunteers and every little bit helps. So thanks, Dragon Toner. And thanks to you guys for putting the word out.
No problem, man. Thanks so much to Morgan Fain, Yellowknife Marine Rescue. If you want to get in touch, Google Yellowknife Marine Rescue. Morgan is working on the website and an email. But I mean, what a great thing to volunteer for. Learn some new skills, meet some cool people, and get on the lake. Mornings at the cabin. I think that'll do it. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. You have yourselves a great Thursday, and we'll talk to you on Friday morning. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Check out more from the show at cabinradio.ca and by following the Mornings at the Cabin Facebook page.